Future of slot machines, innovations and trends shaping the industry.
From finance and M&A to slots, one of my favorite topics, and we have really two amazing people to cover that topic. I'm actually very excited to tackle this. There's lots of great issues and cutting-edge issues in this category. We've got two experts, Simon Barff, Managing Director of CLMS, 40-plus years experience in amusement and gaming. Looking at you, I don't believe
I don't
that.
look old enough, Steve.
No, you don't. But that's amazing. Joyland, let's see, Maygay, Blueprint Gaming, names that are standard in our history, and an expert in machine performance data, a very important topic, particularly today. We've got Andrew Sackey, VP of Commercial EMEA, Aristocrat, one of our top companies in the world for slots and other products, 15-plus years in global gaming, covering the UK, Europe, LATAM, Asia, and North America. That's a little bit of real estate. Product innovation, game design, live dealer, iGaming, sports and slots. You covered it all, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so let's start off with kind of an icebreaker, and we'll start off with you, Simon. What new player behaviors are most influencing slot design today?
Well, I think throughout my career, what we've learned is players don't like too much change. They like steady change. They will evolve onto new ideas and new concepts, but it's a journey. It's not a quick flight. It's something that's going to take a while to get there. So I think overall, there's a lot of simple stuff that still works really well for players, and it's the simple stuff that we can't forget when we're designing games and designing products for our players. We have to take them on a journey. We can't leap ahead. And I think that's one of the most important things we found through our game development and when I was on the game development side of the business. Games designers are very good at coming up with really wacky ideas, and they'd love to put those really wacky ideas into the market. But the problem they've got is there's a hell of a lot of investment goes into developing a wacky idea to get it to market for it to fail. Some of the wacky ideas do succeed, but they're generally hidden in the standard day-to-day games and drip-fed into the market so the players can feel them and touch them and play with them a little bit before they actually become the best in ideas.
Does your answer change whether we're talking about a slot machine in a brick-and-mortar casino or a digital?
No, I think it's all the same. I honestly believe it's all the same. I think the beauty of the digital platforms we've got now is that we can hide wacky ideas in there, and players can evolve and find them and play them. The problem you've got is it still takes the same evolution and development time to get a wacky idea to the market. But sometimes you just need to spend that money to try and get the players there. It's easier to get there now.
Andrew?
I actually thought that was a really good question, by the way. I would say that multiple behaviors are driving our product development, and I think it's a consequence of being global. If it was in more niche markets or focused on single markets, it'd be less behaviors. So we're in a position where we've got customers and players that want to play portrait single game products. We're also in other markets where they want to have a multi-game product on a dual screen form factor. And then even within the multi-game factor piece, there's people that just want a static game pack that never changes. And then there's markets that Simon deals with where they want a dynamic product that updates frequently and often. So even within like a sub-segment, there's a lot of change. And even below that level, we've got markets where they want very simplistic games, very kind of like fruit and low line, high volatility. And others where they are looking for like a narrative-driven product, like characters. And also, when that game works, they want the franchise to extend. So we've got a lot of kind of behaviors all kind of shaping the product development, along with other factors like responsible gambling, and responsible design as well. So
how do you, given the global reach of Aristocrat, and these localization, market-to-market issues. How do you structurally deal with innovation within an organization like Aristocrat in order to keep up with that differentiation from market to market?
So it starts off and we have a pretty lean structure within a market, and as time builds, that grows, but we invest a lot of time before we even enter the market to get like a market requirements doc to basically figure out what the competitors are doing, what the players are looking for, and also what the operators are willing to kind of like pay for that type of product as well. So there's a lot of investment up front, a lot of research, and then with the R&D, we look to kind of right size and localize what we do have to that market. And to be fair, we've been very, very successful. We've had a lot of benefit off the back of products like Lightning Link and Dragon Link, which have pretty much worked in every market they've entered. So I would say we've got this down to a good art now, but it's not to say that the landscape isn't changing. I feel like now with omni-channel becoming more present, we are seeing like online games enter the land-based space, which is something you don't see in North America, whereas we're seeing it in Europe.
Right. How are content and cabinet designs evolving to meet modern expectations? I guess you can. A cabinet obviously refers to the brick and mortar, and a game could be either. But maybe you could tackle that for us first, Simon.
I think we have to embrace new technologies as they're coming around. We see a drone flying across the top of the auditorium there. And I think you have to keep the player at the core of everything from a brick and mortar point of view. I mean, there's so much great technology out there that we'd love to be able to put in front of the player. I mean, I know we've tried it historically with 3D gaming, and you could go to VR gaming now, and you can embrace all of these technologies and try and get the player to go along with it. But you've got to remember that the player is a simple animal that's comfortable with what he likes, or what they like, sorry, and how they interact with that platform. So you can't, again, it's a bit like the wacky idea thing. You have to be mindful of the basic stuff, so maintaining your standard core player base while trying to use technology and cabinet development to entice new people to play on that product and make sure that they're aware of how they can interact with that technology and how it can help them to get a better playing experience. And it is all about that comfort and that player experience when you at the core level. So I think there's a lot of great technology coming through. There's a lot of great cabinets out in the marketplace. There's multiple screens, there's phone charges, there's contactless payment, there's ticket in, there's ticket out. I think Andrew touched on something earlier about the omni-channel bit and having the player cards. I think that could be a great tie-in across all the channels, making sure that one player experience transcends whatever platform they want to play that game on, or their favorite game or their favorite game style, but also can help them to through tools such as AI to introduce them to new games that are similar to the games that they're used to playing, and taking them a little bit further along that line, and rather than having them walk away from a product, sample something else before they leave. And I think that's the benefit we've got with the platforms, whether it be online or on a cabinet.
That's excellent. And maybe, Andrew, you could focus more on this notion of omni-channel, and what are some of the things that you're seeing either at Aristocrat or generally in the industry to take advantage of that movement?
In terms of like innovation, or just
yes,
in terms of market?
Innovation and content, and how that experience is evolving for a customer.
Yeah, look, within the market, we've actually seen probably Europe is probably one of the biggest areas you see a lot of change, because iGaming's more mature. And therefore there's been that sort of omni-channel word, or multi-channel, existing in most of the businesses that have a land-based and an iGaming presence. Most recently we saw Play and Go launching a physical land-based slot with Gentings. We've also seen Pragmatic taking one of their best games online and putting it in a game pack on a Novomatic machine. So these are two sort of like concepts that we didn't actually kind of wouldn't have predicted. We'd have largely assumed that you would have just taken probably the best of that game, and another supplier would have made a game that was very similar to it, but you are now seeing convergence between those two. I'd say from an Aristocrat side, we've been very North American focused, and iGaming's only just in that sort of like growth stage in North America. So we're seeing games like Mo, Mummy, and Dragon Link now being requested by iGaming operators. So these games probably don't have much of a presence in Europe, but it's growing now. So we're seeing more demand for the land-based games being made available online, as opposed to bringing online games to land-based.
If you're developing content, I know what goes into the timeline and cost to develop a brick and mortar title and to then go through a regulatory process. Is it not easier to develop games for online and in essence reverse engineer the process with titles that are likely to work, or is it possible something could work online and not in a brick and mortar?
Look, I feel and I'm not sure it's mutually exclusive in that sense. I don't know if I think there is use cases where you can point to, but I think you could probably point to a larger space where it hasn't worked. You know, in the sense that I've witnessed a lot of games from other companies in markets that have gone on to the hardware, and they've been, I'd say, more lower volatility games brought into land-based environments, and they've been fine online, but they haven't worked as well in the land-based environment. And I feel like there is an aging demographic of players that we do rely on in land-based, and they know what they like, and that doesn't often kind of correlate with some of the newer games. So I feel like we do, like Simon said earlier, we do have to take them on a journey, and if we kind of do that shock and awe, we tend to get rejection pretty quickly.
Simon, I'm going off script, so sorry. But now look 10 years into the future and think about who the customer needs to be or will be in a brick and mortar casino. Will it then be more important to look at the same content that they're consuming online, or you think it's still two different environments, potentially two different customers?
No, from my time at Blueprint, we had both channels. So we had a very successful online platform, kind of a backwards route. It started off with a land-based platform, but then ended up being online, and the bigger part of the business was the online side of the business, and that was where all of the game development cost was housed. So from our point of view, seeing what happened there, we saw that journey backwards. So it started off land-based, went to online, then reversed. But we had the same as Andrew was saying. The volatility will put some people off when you're trying to reduce some of those higher stake, higher value games down to a land-based level. 10 years hence, I think we've got to be really careful, because we do need to attract new players. I think we can see it online. We can see that all of our kids are playing everything mobile. From a land-based point of view, it's how we can get those players from that the online platform onto the land-based products. And without the help of some of that technology that Andrew was referenced with the player cards and the omni-channel tracking, I'm not sure we'll be able to drag those players into it, because kids nowadays just don't play slot machines. They just don't do it in the pubs. They don't do it anyway. So it's kind of the demographic. When you look at some of the player tracking stats we've had back from some of the age verification software we've got in the UK now, is telling us that the under 25s don't play.
And do you think that's again? I could speak for myself. I may not really care 25 years from now, but maybe you will, Andrew. But who's going to be coming into the casino if it's not? And what are they going to be playing?
I think if you're walking into a casino, it's a slightly different environment, isn't it? Because you're not just going in for the slots. And I think we're focused a lot on game development and slot games.
Yeah.
The table games are all successful. I think that physical interaction with something is what keeps people going into that casino environment. And you walk into many a casino these days, and you will see there's mountains and mountains of slot machines. They're not all getting played all the time, but they're there.
Yeah.
And they are successful. But they're successful because people are coming in to do other things. So it's not just about the slots in a casino. It's about the overall entertainment value of walking into that venue and being able to enjoy everything that's on offer.
Does Andrew, when you think about influencers and our popular culture, do you see something in that could influence what happens in the slot floor of the future?
I 100%. I think if you asked me a few years ago, Simon, and you said that would influencers ever play a part, we'd have probably said no. In the modern day and world, you've seen what Brian Christopher can do, and you see the influence as well it's had on players probably playing together as a social team, like pooling money, upping their average bet and going after the bigger jackpots. I feel like that's probably been a bit of an innovation that we didn't see coming. And then that's driven changes in floor design as well, where you've needed to have a bit more space for the products because they're being played socially now. And the players are looking for a shared experience instead of that silo, single person against versus machine experience. So yeah, the influencers are playing a much bigger part in this than I would have expected. And to be fair, you can see the influencers even have slot games now. So I would absolutely see that as part of it. And yeah, having young children myself, I see how powerful they are as well. I see the influence they have on my children. So I would say they've got a big part to play in that.
Maybe a Taylor Swift slot game.
Well, you never know. You never know. She's definitely going to be expensive, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's switch over to data and AI, my two favorite topics. And I know I've dabbled a little bit in understanding our ability now to collect spin level data, assimilate that data, and then make changes or make interactions with the customer that make use of that real time. Talk about how that has the ability to transform slots, whether it's in a brick and mortar or digital in the future.
I think the way that people are using AI in the simplest format just now is to redefine how not necessarily how games interacts with the player, but how the full suite of games interacts with the player. I know that some companies are trying to mold and change the way that a game will play in the short term. But the problem you've got is sat behind all of that is the maths that balances the gameplay. And whether it's a random game or a control game, you've still got the basics of the maths you have to adhere to, otherwise the game can become non-compliant very quickly. So there's a lot of ways in which AI can be implemented. I'm not sure anybody's, and Andrew's probably better placed than me to talk about where AI fits within their product development. I'm not sure anybody's got to the point where they're able to manipulate a gameplay to match a player's model of play or form of play. So simple, does a player gamble? Does a player generally gamble on a small win and take a mid-range win? Or do they gamble all the way up? And does that make that game more volatile? And do we then make all of that player experience more volatile to suit that style of player? Or do we need to keep the game as it is because that's what the player likes playing? So I think there's a definite journey there, and I think there will come a point in which AI will certainly change the way that games play based on how you play that game. But I don't think it's there yet. But it's certainly, you can see it coming. You can see the development started on it. But I think it's embryonic.
Yeah, I'd agree with Simon. I don't think we're quite there yet as an industrial sector. I feel like the operators have definitely got some significant firepower now with some of the tools they're using to analyze the floor, the products, who plays them, rating players, also optimizing loyalty and bonusing. So I know there's a big part there, but at the moment, I would say that creative talent in the studios is going to be the key driver. It's going to be quite a while before AI interrupts that. I feel that at the moment, AI's still got a long way to go, and I feel like we've still got I feel like there's a learning curve of how we use it.
I have this one, and it's a phrase I'm not familiar with, so maybe you can educate me and everyone else. How are you integrating safer by design features without reducing entertainment value?
I think that might be one of mine, Stephen. Okay. And again, going back to what Nick Harding was saying on the last panel, the government are meddling so much in the UK market, and some of it for the right reasons. We have to be careful that vulnerable people are not harmed by gambling. We've got a fundamental requirement from a moral standpoint to make sure that whatever we do is safe for everybody. But there's a point at which it becomes interfering, and some of the hoops that, as an industry in the UK, we're having to jump through now. A simple one, we've put age verification onto some machines in the UK because the government or local authorities have had an issue, they believe, with underage people playing machines. The age verification that's been forced onto the machines takes a picture of the player. The player knows it takes a picture of the player, even though it's behind the scenes. So they've stopped playing the machines. And we've seen a 14% swing in players based on the fact that there's this initial barrier to play. And it's stopping legitimate players who are old enough to play from wanting to play that machine because they believe that the government are looking at everything and storing their picture and they'll be on a blacklist somewhere and won't be able to fly. So we have to be careful that, or we have to try and balance what we have to do legitimately against how we can develop that player journey and make sure we don't put too many hoops in the way to get them into the game.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely say it's become a growing factor now, and it's almost now central to the development process. And I don't think that's just exclusive for Aristocrat. That's for most manufacturers. You've got to have built it in from the start. You have to work really close with the other manufacturers. You have to work close with the trade bodies, the regulators, the operators, and also understand what's going on at a customer level. So there's a lot of work going on there. I'd say that as a manufacturer, we've developed a campaign called Know Your Max. We developed a web page for players to go to get more education, to give them tools, and also to bust some myths that were quite dangerous. So I feel like we're taking the right steps and we're moving in the right direction. But I suppose to Simon's point, I don't know if it's early enough or quick enough, which is what we're trying to establish, because we have entered some markets of recent, and we've had to add like time and spend limits to the machines, and to do that, it's took significant work. But I feel that we have put it in a position where we haven't impacted the entertainment quality of the game, which is, to your point, probably the hardest thing to do is add new functions and features without impacting the quality of their experience.
Yeah. I kind of skipped over this, but I want to come back. What is the next major innovation operators should prepare for? Well, actually, I'm going to combine it with the next. How can technology enhance with immersion and operational efficiency? Let's go at that question.
I'll let you do that.
So, how can technology make the operations more efficient?
More efficient, and how can it help with immersion?
Help with immersion?
Yes.
I'll go with efficiency. I've definitely seen some good work with companies working alongside CMS systems, taking data from peripherals, to make sure that downtime's limited. A note acceptor is about to be full, so here's the alert to empty it before you stop it being able to kind of stop a player playing the machine. I've seen a lot of that sort of stuff, but I suppose the immersion piece probably ties back to the omni-channel. I feel that some operators have done a really good job of trying to unify the position of the land-based and the iGaming position, and I'd also probably tie in stuff like you've seen really good work in Europe where they've been able to kind of let a player go up to a roulette table, play a game on that table, and then literally go on their phone as they leave the casino and play the same table as they leave. So I'd say it doesn't probably get more immersive than that, in the sense that you could play that product anywhere at any time, and it's the real product. So they're probably my answers. I think it's a very tough question, though.
Yeah. What about, I've always wondered, because we've seen it a little bit in the US, and I don't know about the rest of the world, but this notion that you can play a slot machine that sits on a brick and mortar casino floor remotely. You could control it remotely.
I think it's kind of been born out of the fact that some land-based customers will probably only play that land-based product, but also some iGaming customers probably never will experience a land gaming experience. So I feel like it's found that middle ground. That market is being utilised within Europe. There's casinos you see where there's just cameras on the actual machines in the middle of the floor. So it's something that's, I'd say, is probably more emerging than anything. We've we've not seen it obviously widespread in North America as of yet, but it is definitely something that's growing.
How about, I'll throw another one out for you. How about someone playing a slot on a floor and remotely someone is watching their playing session? I was thinking about this because people have been asking me about prediction markets. And basically you have someone wagering on someone playing a live slot session on a slot machine floor.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The emerging markets that are coming out at the minute, the prediction markets are becoming massive and probably bigger and grayer than the legitimised online marketplace. And it's quite possible that could happen. I mean, there's nothing stopping you betting on the outcome of anything because you just predict. You're taking a punt. You know,
I've always thought about ways that you could use the RNG of a slot machine just as another event, but overlay some type of competitive landscape that maybe a next generation person might be more comfortable with. It just so happens the competition is either a head-to-head slot tournament or some session that's being...
Well, I think that ties into what Andrew was saying and the changes in player patterns that he's seen across the Aristocrat markets where players do want to bet together. And there's nothing better than betting against your mates, is there? I mean, it's what we do all the time. It's where that competitive edge comes from. So why not?
Yeah.
Why not be betting on the outcome of it? And why not put it into that predicted model?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we've got a few minutes left, and I've asked the questions. Some of them came from you, some of them I improvised, but why don't you each take a couple of minutes and say the things either you didn't touch upon or you want to emphasize in closing.
I'll go first. I think thinking about coming and sitting on this stage and talking about everything that's going along, it takes me back, and I have been in the industry for 40 years, and it's been across many different companies and many different organizations that have been on a global scale. One of the things that I had drummed into me when I was first working for a manufacturing company, Maygay Machines in Wolverhampton, a very small family-run business. And the directors there always said to me and the game development team, don't ever forget, all of our money comes from people that are playing the games. If the games aren't interesting and the games aren't compelling enough, they'll never get there. And I think that's the thing that sticks with me most. Out of all my time in the industry, out of all this global expansion in the online world, out of all this cryptocurrency and everything else that's going on that I don't understand in this hall, that's the thing that it always comes back to. Whatever these guys are doing, the guy that's putting the money into the machine or online is the guy that's paying everybody's wages. And we have to be mindful of that and make sure that we successfully take them to where, as far as we can, because obviously I want to still be here in another 15, 20 years. Andrew certainly does, because he's only a junior, isn't he? Like you said, Steve, I'm not sure how long you're going to be around, but I want to keep it going. I want to be successful. I want the industry to continue to evolve and develop, but the players at the heart of everything that we do, and we have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
I'm going to kind of echo what Simon's saying. I've been very fortunate to work for a lot of good operations across multiple verticals, and working in casinos as an operator and then having suppliers like Aristocrat, which I've now ended up working for. I feel that the strength of the partnerships between the supplier, the operator, and then the customer has been a key driver of protecting the sector, but also providing that safe area of innovation. You know, like we've been able to understand what the player wants. They've been able to tell us directly, but also we've been able to do it in a way that supports both the operator and the supplier. You know, the partnership models that I've seen in tribal gaming, and then how that has like echoed across North America and in Europe. I just feel that to be able to protect this sector, but also, like Simon says, we all want this sector to flourish and grow, but also maintain and be around for many years to come. And I think the partnership piece is probably the key aspect of that.
Yeah. Look, we couldn't have two better people representing the slot industry and the innovation there. So thank you. A warm thank you for this group. Thank you.